Alright, I thank you once again for joining me in this course, in this topic. And what we want to talk about is some basic functions that is being used to carry out data analysis in Microsoft Excel. Okay, now I'm going to cover some of these topics. I'm going to cover the average function, the average if function, sum if, maximum, minimum, and then the length. So this is the data that we have. I'll be combining this data with another data here for us to use to calculate or apply all these several functions that is used in Microsoft Excel. So first of all, this is the cells that we got from a Canada website, and it contains the order ID, order date, priority, then to the ship mode, and then shipping cost. Now, for us to calculate, we want to see the average sales that this store got, right? So we have about 115 rows here. That's including the headers. So in total, we have about 114 rows in our record here in the year 2012. You can see them here, 2012. Now, for us to be able to calculate the average of all the cells, we have to make use of the average function. And how do you do that? Just use your equal sign, and then using the average, what you have to do, just mark the range of the cells starting from cell E2, hold your shift control button and press downward to cover the whole range. Now, when you are done, simply close your brackets. Alright, and so this is the average sale. So the total average sale that was got in this store in the year 2012 is $2,154.28. Okay, and so that's it for average, to get for the average sales. Now, if you want to get for average if function, for us to cover average if function. Now, if you look at the average if function, average if function takes in three arguments. The first is the range of the values which we are going to consider. Now, the second is the criteria that if met, we should produce the result. And then the third is the range that we are going to check the average from. Now, for example, what I want to do in this cell, this order or this data, we want to filter out, want to be able to get the average of the cells here in this data if the order priority is low. Alright, if the order priority is low, we want to get the cells, alright, the average of these cells. So for us to do that, use your average if function, and in the range, click on here, and then use your shift control arrow down to select your whole range on the order priority column. Now press your shift control, then arrow down, select the whole stuff. Now go back to your cell that includes a formula. You can use here, and then using your comma, the next option that comes up says what is the criteria. Now the criteria, we are only filtering out the data from the order priority column that has low. Now use low here, right? Then the next one says the average range. We want to get the average of all the cells. Now click on the cell, use your control shift arrow down, and then when you are done, close your bracket, then hit your enter button. Okay, so this is our value here. So the average of the cells that made the requirements for all the other priorities that has low is $2,507.57. So that is it for average if function. And another function we'll be looking at is the sum function. Now, the sum function is very easy. The sum function helps us to get the total summation of values. Let's take, for example, this is our shipping cost. For us to get the sum of the shipping cost, just use your equal sign and then use the sum function. Select the whole range of values from here, hold your shift control and then your down arrow, close the brackets and then hit your enter button. Now this is the sum of all the shipping costs in this data. Okay, and also we want to see the sum of if the sum if function. Now for the sum if function, I'm going to switch to our next data here, and in this data it contains the name of students, their scores and then their results. Now what I want to do, I want to sum the scores of students that had the results of pass. So that is how we apply the sum if function. And how do you do that? Use your equal sign, then use sum if, open your bracket, it says what is the range. What is the range? So we are considering the range here. Okay, considering the range to be here. Use your comma. Then the criteria is that if it is pass, if the student has passed, then you should sum the values here. Now hit your enter button. So you notice that every student that had passed as a result, that the summation of their scores, each of their scores is what, 348. Now if you sum 92, 84, 74 and 98, you are going to get this value. So that is it for our sum if function. Then for the maximum and the minimum, this helps us to calculate the maximum value within a range. Now for us to get the maximum value in this data, what you have to do, just use your maximum and then select the whole scores here, then hit your enter button. So the maximum score for the students in that subject is 98, and then for the minimum, all you have to do, use your equal sign and then use your minimum function, then select the whole range from there. Repeat the same process as you did, hit your enter button. So the minimum here is 50. So we've covered the maximum and then the minimum. Also we are going to consider another important Microsoft function, that is the length. Now the length function is very important, which helps you to count the length of characters in a data. Let's take, for example, we have here Kenneth as the first name. For us to get the length of characters in Kenneth, you use your length function and then click on that. Alright, hit your enter button. So if you begin to count these characters, Kenneth, you notice that each of them has they are made up of 7 characters. Now if you decide to add another value here like G and hit your enter button, you notice that instead of giving us 8, it's giving us 9. So this is because when you are using the length function, considers spaces, so it counts spaces as values also. Okay, now if you decide to clean that space, hit your enter button, it gives you 8 because you have delimited the spaces there. Okay, and also the last function we are going to consider is the concatenate function. Right, so the concatenate function, the way it works is that it joins 2 strings together. Take, for example, we have here the full name. We want to include the full name of this student here. So we have to create a different column and give it a name, full name. So for us to not repeatedly filling out these details, if you want to get the full name of such students, we have to use the concatenate function of Microsoft Excel, and then it says we should include text 1. Now we include text 1, and it says we should include the text 2. We include text 2, close the bracket and hit your enter button. Now you will notice that between Kenneth and Ben there are no spaces. So this is because we did not include a space in our concatenate parameters. And for us to do that, just double click on it, and then in between the text 1 and text 2, after the comma here, what you have to do, just use your quotation mark and then give a space here, and then separate it with a comma and hit your enter button. Now you notice that we have Kenneth Ben as a full name of this guy here. Now to fill out the whole space, click on this and then drag to the end of the record, and you notice that we have the full name of every of our students here in the class. Now you notice that the column did not fit into the content here. Now to resize it, just hover your mouse around here at the end of column C, double click on it, and then it sizes every stuff. So that is it about using some basic functions for data analysis in Microsoft Excel. So thank you very much for joining me once again, and I'm expecting to see you in our next topic.